out of curiosity, what are you finding? Like, you have to tell me the whole thing, but like in general, like what are you finding like success with? Like, are you finding success with like password, like remote file include?
So those file include LFI, RFI, XSEs, XSS, SSRF, and CSRF. These things you can simply Google and place yourself nowhere. Okay, because this is what everyone is doing. Okay,
Okay.
and on top of it, they also don't know what they are doing, but they are just increasing the competition, right? In the bug bounty world, even if you don't know thing but you start bombarding, that means you are just trying to do something and just chasing xyz stuff that you don't know, but they are doing it. That's the problem, right? So I usually don't go for those bugs, because those bugs you can simply read on Google, and what you don't need anything fancy over there. It's just a payload and you just throw it out, but it will not work. Okay, because it is not supposed to work. You might think like you have done some labs or something like that where you will find those bugs, but in real life that doesn't exist, right?
Yeah, it's just the sophistication of real world and classroom is like completely different world.
Exactly. See,
I
now, like in those labs, whatever you are taught, like maybe LFI, like you said, right? So in that lab, you will find it, because that lab is intended to find you that bug, right? It is supposed to make you find that bug. So you will definitely find it. But in real world, the technology changes and everything changes, right? So most of the labs that we do and everything is built on, let's say, PHP or maybe some of the old technologies which are vulnerable, right? But now most of the things are already taken care by technology. Whatever payload we used to throw in labs, maybe in XSS or LFI, it will not work for any of the domain out there, because Angular is updating, the backend is updating, anything that we are doing is updating, right? And we have tested that thing in lab. That is the gray area. We think whatever we test in lab will be on real target, right? But that doesn't work that way. The lab is just to show you how things work, but in real life, it is totally different. Else, everyone would have been finding the bugs, right? Yeah. So I will tell you what, as you asked, like what my type of methodology and what type of bugs I look, it's totally different, right? So I
okay.
usually tackle from the top to down approach, right? So when I say top to down, my approach is not like that. Like I have a website and I will start throwing payloads. No, it doesn't work that way. So you have
Okay.
to understand the hierarchy here, right? Even a domain is an organization first, right? And that organization has its own asset, which they value, right? And every organization has their assets, which are their employees and their email address, their personal data, and maybe their code base or softwares. And on top of it, the third party integrations that they do, right? Every
Hmm.
organization has some third party, maybe a Jira, maybe Service Desk, maybe Slack, Teams, whatnot, right? They have it internally. So my methodology starts from that perspective. Like first, we have to target those, because if we go pro in one of the area, like let's say Jira, right? So every organization out there is having it, right? So if we know a bug in Jira, then we can simply target all the domains, right? As simple as
Yes.
that. So, and this thing, nobody does it because it might require some research, it might require some different type of learning, but you have to learn it and then you have to do it, right? But if you learn XSS and you have a domain in front of you, everyone is saying the same domain with the same URL in the browser and everyone is throwing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So that's a different thing. So now, as I told you, my hierarchy, in this hierarchy itself, you can find thousands of bugs, right? So now I said Jira, right? So my specialization, or maybe you can say what I usually found is around Jira,
Mhm.
right? And then I also have some special bugs around Salesforce, right? And then there are other tons of bug which I look, but I never look for XSS or SQLi injection, because those are like a technical bugs, right? Because things that were working earlier for XSS, like script alert, script close, it will not pop up right now because browsers and technologies are already taking care of it. So you has to improve that thing. So that bugs are for those who are already doing it from like 9 to 10 years, and they know what is happening with those bugs and why it is not triggering, because
Mm.
it requires some bypass, it requires a lot of stuff in the backend. But in the bug side, look, it's in plain sight. That is the thing. So this was just an example that I did. Then I also look for the bugs like maybe code base, I said, right? So the code base are
Okay.
mostly on GitHub, Bitbucket, or maybe any other code management tool. So there you have to look for the bugs, right? Because if some secret or password is there, that is an asset to a company, correct?
Yes.
So those type of bugs you have to look, which no one usually does it. Everyone is just behind Nmap and just scanning and throwing whatever they found to these reports.
Crossing those fingers. So so if I understand you right, you're looking at the companies more through like their business processes
Exactly.
and their code base
Okay.
and seeing how their business processes can be exploited.
Exactly.
What That's really cool, dude. I like that.
So this is just a start, like how I approach. And basically, once I'm done with that layer, I go inside the app, right? Then I usually go to the domain and see what is there we want to hack, right?
Mhm.
Because these assets which I told you on the upper layer are common for all, right? If I know a bug for one, it will be applicable for all the organizations and I can search for that bug in them. But now then comes the domain, right? Then you have to search for the bugs which attracts you, right? There are some bugs which will never attract you, right? Like even if you have the payload and you said, okay, this bug, I know this will work, but if you don't have like a linking with that bug, you will never find it. Like for XSS, that's the case for me. Like I never get interested in XSS because I have tried it, I failed, and I threw XSS away. Same for SQL map or maybe SQL injection. But there are other bugs. Like I try to exploit the users. Like when I say exploit the users, I try to see what the domain is giving me back, right?
Mhm.
Let's when you sign up, right? So you have that email address when as an input, right? So you have to figure out what thing server is throwing back, right? Your username is thrown back in your mails, right? Most of the time, hey Jamira, thanks for signing up. This is your link, right? But what if instead
Mhm.
of Jamira, we send www.evil.com, right? So that we have to see and we have to figure out those kind of bugs and places where we actually find the bugs. And then this is just another layer. And then I go deep. Okay. So when I say I go deep, then that is the APIs. Because every application that is built on this web or whatever we are seeing is APIs and nothing more than that. It just requests
Yes.
and response, right? So I see what all APIs are developed by the organization or the developers, right? And I figure out each and every API, what is their functionality, right? So this is how my approach looks like. And basically, this is a process that I do. I don't hunt for bugs on an organization or maybe any target. I follow a process because I have my own set of bugs, which I know will pay me. First, I try to find them, and then I go inside the domain. I figure out the business logic, and then I try to exploit them. So this is how my methodology looks like.
Hmm.